Evil comes and never goes. It's up to people to shine in the darkness. Foes, as friends they pose and come when you reach the lowest of lows. It's up to you to shine in the darkness. It is up to you to bring justice, even if it's late justice.
May the gods protect me.
Hey guys, welcome to I Can Explain. This month, we're in August? This month, we're going to talk about late justice. I'm going to talk about the beginning of it, and we get into that a bit of that in my Get to Know series when you get to those characters. But this is where we do deeper dives into, and I go into a bit of it, but this is where I give the deepest of dives into the creations and the behind the scenes and what it really takes for everything to come together. And here I'll be combining the comic book Late Justice with the short film because it's really one and the same. Like you can't have one without the other because one was happening when the other one wasn't going to happen, then the other one just kind of happened. And you can see how sometimes it's very frustrating to get things from beginning to the end. So, late justice was never a thing. I said this before, I say it again. I was with some other people in the acting world, and we were just tired of doing work for other people. So we said, hey, what if we, do something on our own? And so the things we were pitching to each other one day, we were at my aunt's place, and we were pitching some stuff, and no one really had any ideas that we could actually do without needing other people. So finally someone said, hey man, don't you do comic books? I was like, yeah. He was like, do you have anything? I was like, not really, but I can make something up on the fly. He was like, all right. So I just created these characters named Sean and Sam. And I said, there will be sorcerer. I literally made it up on the spot. And then we spent about a good hour and a half driving in the night in Atlanta looking for a place to film a fight scene. And we had two actors that were going to film. And we finally found a place that had light. And I said, let's just film it here. And literally we filmed the fight scene, and it was me on the camera, and I made it up as we were going. This was never supposed to be a thing. So now I have this fight scene, and I'm not an editor at the time. I don't know what I'm doing, And so then I started building a story around the entire thing. And so then one of the other guys said, hey man, if you need concept art, I know a guy. His name is Michael Reber. Okay, so I reached out to him and I talked about some concept art. He did the first piece of concept art, which came out fantastic. I will actually put it in the video. And then all of a sudden, I said, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I have to go. Dude, I am the kid that knows he can't swim, and I'm still gonna dive in. So I'm like, F it, right? And that's what I did. And so I then build up an idea of doing a short film. Now I have this fight scene for about 6 or 7 months, and I'm trying to find two women that will play like the mother roles. So essentially, it's like one of those things where like you have the fight scene, but I'm like, hey, I'm trying to build around it to make it a fuller scene or fuller short film. And in the meantime, me and Michael were working on something. I think it was the concept art. And then it was something else he was working on. I can't remember exactly what it was. But he said to me, do you want to do a comic book? And I was like, oh. I said, how much do you want? Because this guy, it's some beautiful artwork, but it's painting. It's like Alex Ross stuff. It's like, he's really a painter. And he said, okay, let's do it for $500 for 5 pages. So $100 a page. I was like, yeah. I said, all right, I can make that happen, but we need to do this. I need to do this to make that happen. He said, okay. All right, cool. So I made it happen. My party made it happen. And then he brought me ideas and all these things I will put in the video. But essentially, he's showing me different pieces of art and the cover and stuff. And when you'll see the different covers that there were, because they were beautiful covers. And the reason I chose the one I chose is because I felt like in the story I wanted to tell at that point, I was like, man, it feels like it's rage and innocence. There's so much rage in the innocence. And then we put together this comic book, and it's still one of the best looking comic books I've ever done. And I like that it was just strictly action. And then the last scene we have like we have the introduction of Black, and we see that this is just a kid, all type of stuff. And now I have the comic book. Now I don't know what to do with the comic book because I have the short film still. So my focus is split now. So the two actresses you see on camera weren't the first two actresses. I had went through a plethora of actresses. I would say about 4 or 5 before Valentina. Her and I worked together on photo shoots before, and I finally just asked her, since there's no talking in the film, or at least on their part, I said, "Why don't you just do this for me?" She's like, "Sure." And the other actress, I forgot her name. She was already doing film and stuff, and I don't remember how we got to talking about it. But I said, "I have this small role. We could meet early in the morning and shoot it, because it was winter time at the time." And I said, "Actually, I think it might work out best." And so it's one of those things where it just started coming together. But the 5 other women that I met, they were headaches, bro. They were headaches. They were trying to change everything. One woman didn't want to film in a certain area of Atlanta because it was bad news. I said, "Well, why did you agree to come here then?" I said, I told you where we're filming at. And it was just really, really weird. And I've changed my entire process around. Now, once again, to give myself grace, I just didn't know what I was doing. And I had this footage that I felt like I had to use. And so then now there's no green screen, there's none of this. So now it's like the powers and stuff are going to look, low budget, cheap, or whatever. And I finally meet someone, and the process of meeting someone that's going to do the edits, the contract he wanted me to sign, which I signed, and we both signed, was supposed to be like, "Hey, I'm going to pay you in parts, you know?" And so, but then he changed his mind and he wanted me to pay him in full. I said, "Well, I don't have it right now." He says, "Well, then I get to keep the footage." I would never agree to that. That's not even in the contract. So when we had a dispute or whatever, and so finally, it worked itself out. But he was a headache. He was very much a headache. He was not a good person to work with. Then I found it. So that person edited everything together, right? And then I found someone who's going to do the visual effects. But then I paid them the money, but then they ghosted me for 3 months. I finally said, "Hey, what's going on here? Can I please just get my stuff back?" And so I got my money back and my stuff back. She said she had gotten busy. I said, "That's cool, but you could communicate though." But anyways, then that person that I found to do the short film, the film sound effects, and that's not the visual effects. Then what happened was I ended up moving to Colorado during that process. And so now it's one of those situations where now I owe this person money, but now I'm starting over. You see the clusterfuck that this whole thing was? It was a shit show, man. So the comic book is done, the short film is done, and now I just throw it on YouTube. And actually, where it's at on YouTube right now on my page is not actually reflective of the views they originally had. I tore down my old YouTube and built it back up. So the views it has now is not really indicative of it. It's unfortunate too. But it's also on a streaming service as well. But for the longest time, I was kind of ashamed of it because I only see the flaws. I only see what went wrong. And so many things went fucking wrong. But if I'm being honest, it's more about, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, man, I just wasn't it taught me how to be a better leader. It taught me how to be better at just standing my ground. And when I give direction, that's the direction it is. If you can't be a part of the direction, if you don't agree with the direction, then we're not going to work together. It's not about negotiation here. You're not going to go somewhere and negotiate with someone else's vision. A lot of people will try to do that with you, And so that's how I was able to do this second short film and with confidence and lead, with the direction I had. And I also want to make sure that I'm just honest to a point where it's like, doing it on the fly and coming up with the story. I am impressed by that with myself, but also standing by it. Sometimes you have to have a presence when you're selling yourself. And that's sometimes all the time. And I didn't have that presence at that time. I didn't even believe what the shit I was saying. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those situations where you have to just stand on business, as corny as that sounds, but stand by what what you're doing, stand by what you're saying, and say, hey, no, this is how I want it. This is where it needs to be. But also learn to adjust on the fly if someone has an idea, and I can appreciate that every day. You know what I'm saying? But as far as the story goes, let's talk about the story. So I already created Sean and Sam. The reason why I decided to bring the moms into the situation is because I felt their stories were the origin story of the kids, and then affected everything that went around it. That's why issue 2, Mary Did You Know, is so crucial, because you get into parents' origin stories and the decisions they made that led to this lifelong feud between these two children. And issue 2 is a very interesting story, because I went back to Michael, whose idea it was for us to do the comic book to begin with. Well, he didn't want to do a second comic book. He said he really wanted to invest his time in other things. And he says, I'll do the cover for you, but the cover will be like, it was like $2,000. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That sounds ridiculous. Okay, whatever. So then I found other artists. But if you actually look deeper at the late Mother Did You Know comic, dude, that had 3 different artists on it. Not on purpose. It wasn't trying to be fancy. It started off with one artist who we made a deal about money. All this comes down to making deals, right? And this is why contracts are just crucial. So we made a deal. I was going to pay him the first half up front, second half when he finished. I'm okay with that. So I paid him the first half. But after he did the first page, he was asking for full payment. He said, you see what I can do? Now I need full payment. I said, I'm not paying you full payment, bro. Like, this is the deal. And it became an issue. I finally said, hey, man, I'm just going to request my money back. You can keep your fucking pages. And he was like, no, I'll do it. But then he ghosted for like a month. So I requested the money back. And then I got my money back because I used PayPal. And I got my money back. And then I sent him and he complained about it, whatever. But then I sent him the money for the first page he did. And then he sent me a second page. And I sent him the money for a second page. And I said, I'll pay you page by page. But that was the last I ever heard of him. He never contacted me again. So you had that artist. Then you had another artist who did the last page. Why he did the last page first, I'll never know. Because he sends me the page, I send him the money. We agree on, you finish a page, you get paid a page, which seems like a hassle for both parties, but that's the only deal that he was willing to make, besides getting all the money up front, which I was not making up the experience I just had. So I send him the money, never hear from the fucking guy again. So after that, I said, okay. So I want to finish issue 2, because I think it's a great issue. Then I meet the current artist I have now, Jonar. And next thing you know, we meet, I show him what I have already. I said, you just need to fit this in to this. And he said, okay. So he did everything in between. So you have like the first 2 pages, the last page, and everything else in between is ours. So it's really weird. I only give credit to one artist though. I wasn't doing that. I'm not playing that game. But no, just very tumultuous time. But it's look here. This is how it is in the creative field though. You know, some people are really reliable. Some people are not, you know? So you just have to do the best to be your best. But that is the absolute crap show. That was the making of Late Justice. And I'm actually more proud of my short film now. I'm proud of the comic book. I still push it to this day. I still sell issues to this day. I'm extremely proud of all of it, because it led me to being a better storyteller, a better writer, a better leader, and more confident artist, writer, creator as I move forward. So that's what I have for this month, guys. And I can explain. It's a very interesting story, but it's also a story that, you know, I think is important to let you guys know that the road won't always be smooth. Just do your part. So hope you guys enjoyed it, man. I'll talk to you guys next month.